name's Claire. I'm a printmaker and a bit of a mixed media artist based in the UK. And today I'm going to be sharing with you something a little bit different. So with all my other YouTube videos, things generally go according to plan. I've previously made mistakes, so I've learnt from them. So everything pretty much goes according to plan. So I don't really have the opportunity to show you when things go wrong. However, set the scene. So 10 minutes before I was due on a Zoom call, I'm in the middle of tidying my workshop, ready to set up for an in-person workshop, and I discover my gel plate and it's got an image transfer left on there from the previous week on a workshop. So my thought process was, what's the quickest way of getting this image off the gel plate? And that's by applying more paint to lift that image. So I thought, right, quickest process, I'll get on with this. But then I totally lost focus and started to play. But however, I wasn't focused because I knew I had this meeting in 10 minutes. So everything that went wrong could have gone wrong. And actually, I'm glad the camera was on because it gives me an opportunity to share this with you. And hopefully you will learn some of the lessons that I've learned along the way of my printmaking journey. Because we all know jelly printing can be lots of fun, but it can be a tricky process. So, dive in with me and hopefully we'll learn together some things, what to do and what not to do and how to put them right. This is the final print. Whether it ends up in the bin or in a mixed media project, who knows? It's not the best to print, but it will show you where things went wrong, which I hope will help. So let's dive in. So you can see I'm starting with an image transfer already on my gel plate. And like I say, this has been dried on for over a week. And I just wanted to have a play with one of my current favourite hand made stencils. So this is made out of Yupo paper. And I just thought I'm just going to have a little bit of a play. My idea behind it was that I was trying to get the image to fall into those shapes, if that makes sense. And it just didn't work. So first mistake that I made, way too much paint. So you can see I'm doing everything. So I'm not editing this video to cut things out. Everything is in real time. So you can see by applying too much paint, my stencil is starting to lift. It's starting to kind of ripple because it's got too much paint on. And you can see from my roll-off sheet how much paint I'm actually having to take off the plate at this point. The problem when your mask or stencil starts to lift off the plate, the paint can bleed underneath and therefore you lose your crisp, sharp edges. So, that's why the amount of paint you need is really quite thin. So at this point, I'd realised all I was doing is adding more paint and not actually lifting anything off the plate, which is what I needed to do if I was going to get this image to take on a different shape. So I'd laid my stencil down again and I was using a Titan buff colour to add the paint. And then I'm laying a piece of copier paper over the stencil, rubbing it quite firmly and then pulling it back to try and remove some of the paint. This was the big mistake. What I should have done is remove the stencil first and then gone in with the copier paper. Because as you will see in a second, as I lift the copier paper, it has not only stuck to my favourite stencil and ruined it, but it is also stuck to the plate as well. So something else to note as well is the workshop was super warm. I hadn't put the aircon on because I wasn't going to be in there very long. So the paint was drying super quick. And what's actually happened is the copier paper is stuck to the excess paint on my stencil and dried, and therefore it's ripped. So at this point, most people will go, what a disaster. Just clean it off, start again. But I didn't. I thought, right, those ripped pieces aren't the end of the world. I use collage in my gel prints, so let's pretend those rip bits were intentional and they're going to stay. So I put the stencil down again, the other side, because one side was completely ruined because it had all torn paper stuck to it. And this time added a layer of, I think it's green grey. I'll make sure I put all the colours that I've used in the description below. So this time I'm just adding more paint. I'm using the stencil to layer more paint on the gel plate. So my 10 minutes is drastically running down, so I decided I need to lift this print. So again, just using, I think it's a Naples yellow light, and applying a thin layer over the top of my print to lift this image. Now, with it being super hot, it was drying almost instantly. So each layer of paint was dry before I added this final layer of paint. While the paint is still wet, I'm laying down a wet strength tissue paper, again embracing the wrinkles because I think at this point it doesn't really matter, and giving it a good firm rub, and literally probably left this less than a minute before pulling the print. So my next mistake was I started to pull the print and the paper ripped, because when you're pulling a print that's got quite a few layers on, it's much better to flip your gel plate over and remove the plate from the paper rather than the paper from the plate. The other thing you need to do is, you can see that I go around all the edges of the gel plate first and almost crack the paint to break that seal, so then you get a nice clean pull. So like I said before, everything's in real time. So this does take a little bit of time. You need to be patient and take your time as you're removing that paper from the gel plate. Good news is it is actually pulling off the gel plate quite cleanly. It's picked up all that image transfer that's been lying on the plate for over a week. It's picked up the torn bits of paper that was left on there. So it's actually worked out not too bad. And I'm just zooming in there so you can see that actually it's quite a grungy looking print. I have broken up that image, which is what I intended to do. But those bits of paper you can't actually see within the print. If you've enjoyed this video, please share, like and subscribe to my channel. Help me get out there, and sign up to the newsletter for regular updates, top tips on printmaking and mixed media, and also it will contain all the up-to-date information on my new online course, Pushing the Boundaries, that will be released this autumn. So the idea behind Pushing the Boundaries is taking you guys to the next level if you're looking beyond creating collage papers. So it's the idea that you can use the gel plate as a printmaking tool to pull one-of-a-kind fine art style prints. And I'm going to show you 3 very different techniques on the gel plate of achieving those kinds of results. So if that's something that you feel like you're interested in and you're looking for something a little bit more advanced and develop your gel printing skills a little bit further, then sign up to the wait list, and for that offer coming in the autumn. If you're not at that point yet, then I would say watch my YouTube videos, because that is all the free content, all the information and practice that you need to get yourself ready for pushing the boundaries in the autumn. So thanks for watching. I hope you found this useful. Please drop me some comments below. Let me know how you're getting on. If you've got any questions, I'm always happy to help. So I'll see you next time.